Right before Christmas, some MLAs got a new cabinet position and a raise under the tree, while President Trump delivered potentially troubling news regarding tariffs, which could impact Saskatchewan's potash industry. We also had a report from the provincial auditor, and an American political commentator is weighing in on provincial health care. Here to cover this is our political panel: Murray Mandryk, a political columnist, and provincial affairs reporter for CBC, Alexander Quon, join us now. Alex, let's start with yesterday's cabinet shuffle. What are the highlights?
Well, for me, the big one in this shuffle is Tim McLeod being moved out of the public safety portfolio. McLeod does remain as Justice Minister and Attorney General, but McLeod had come under fire from the residents of Danair Beach for the province's response to the wildfire that wiped out half of the northern village in June. Now, residents of Danair Beach did call for McLeod's resignation this most recent sitting, so it's notable he's now out of the role, but I will say that Premier Scott Moe insisted McLeod had handled the issue well, and he was merely shifted away from the public safety portfolio in order to lighten the load. Sliding into McLeod's place is Michael Uyghur. Uyghur is now the Minister of Public Safety after the existing Ministry of Corrections, Policing, and Public Safety got a new name. Uyghur was one of 5 new ministers named by Moe in the shuffle. Travis Kiesig, Daryl Harrison, and Colleen Young were dropped from cabinet. They served as the Ministers of Environment, Agriculture, and Energy and Resources, respectively.
So, Murray, sometimes cabinet shuffles tell us more, give us an indication of where the government's thinking. Sometimes it can be a demotion. Sometimes it's getting people a chance. What stands out to you with this one?
To me, it's always about who's out. And in this particular case, you have 3 ministers who were either new or were in for a year or slightly more, and they're out. And I don't think they're going to be back in. That's a tough decision for a government because it's a long walk from the front bench back to the back bench, and there's usually reasons for it. In this particular case, they added 5 new people, I think that actually kind of strengthens cabinet on the bottom end because the ministers were underperforming. Daryl Harrison is Ag Minister, was having problems as a Sask Party government ag minister, and the ag ministers in this government have been much loved by the stakeholders, and that's problematic. Mr. Kiesing Environment was just another consecutive environment minister that had trouble explaining things, and they haven't really had a good environment minister since Dustin Duncan or an ag agenda. As such, I don't know if Ms. Roden is adding to the betterment of cabinet because she ran into a little bit of trouble there. In terms of the 5 new people, they're all new. Some of them are sound like they're enthusiastic and certainly enthusiastic supporters of the Sask Party cause and everything. So we'll see how well they do. Mr. Moe, the Premier, basically posted from many people's strength in the cabinet picture. Great provincial motto, by the way. Horrible motto for a cabinet because you don't want more people in cabinet. And secondly, many people's strength. You're adding a lot of white, older, bald, rural guys. I don't know that that's really a huge statement of diversification. Very quickly, the problem is the top end, and it still has been since the election. They have underperforming people in senior positions, but they don't seem to have much alternative. And when we're seeing people at the bottom end being shuffled around and the same people in the top end, and in Jeremy Harrison and Crowns is running into obvious problems. Jim Ryder is running into the same problems because we're now spending more, increasing the deficit debt and not having a strong financial performance. I think Mr. Hindley and Mr. Cockrell in health and education have been performing maybe a little bit better than expected, but my expectations for both of them in the roles were going to be pretty low because of what they faced and their background and such. So I think there's still big problems in cabinet they're not addressing. Very quickly with Mr. McLeod, he did have too much on his plate, and this might be a good thing.
Yeah, and sometimes when you get, as you know, when you're out of cabinet, it's hard to get back in. As you said, it's a long road to get back in. Yep. Alex, I mentioned the new latest tariff threats. President Trump this week got the attention of Premier Moe and the province's potash industry. What's the crux of the issue here?
So, U.S. President Donald Trump essentially threatened to tariff Canadian fertilizer imports. Now, he didn't specify how that would work. He didn't give us any specific numbers. But we do know that if they are introduced, they would hurt the Canadian potash industry and especially the Saskatchewan potash industry. Saskatchewan produces about a third of the world's potash supply and then ships most of that south to the United States, where it's used as a key component in fertilizer. So obviously, having that fertilizer tariffed would mean a tariff on potash, and that could do some serious damage to Saskatchewan. For his part, Premier Scott Moe essentially said that while he normally takes the president seriously when he speaks, he urged everyone to just take a breath and move on from this latest threat.
And Murray, what do you think of that advice?
Well, this won't do any good to my social media file when I cross the border and everything, but this is just dumb. The president is obviously being dumb and doesn't understand the industry. Credit to Scott Moe for offering a bit of a calm voice to this, because by the time Trump gets around to realizing how dumb this is, they'll have already eliminated the notion of going forward with these tariffs because they don't make any sense. This hurts the American farmers, the American potash industry. It doesn't really hurt Canadians as much as they think. By the time they figure out that they can't get Russian or Belarusian potash any cheaper because you can't have to cross the sea, they'll realize that they're just adding to the cost of American food and American food production. And so this will not work for Trump. It's just another one of his, I think, chain-rattling bluffs that he's going. So full credit to Scott Moe for pointing that out.
And it's a time when Trump's offering a big bailout, multi-billion-dollar bailout to farmers in the U.S. Alex, the provincial auditor released her part of her annual report this past week. What are the major headlines?
Two major headlines for me. Auditor flagged that the province is at risk of not meeting its commitment to create 46,000 licensed childcare spaces by March 31st, 2026. She also flagged a concern that the province isn't collecting data or analyzing data to help them inform decisions on where they'll build those childcare spaces or if they have enough staff to actually staff those positions. Second big headline for me, province is failing to inspect special care homes. Now, these are homes that provide personal and nursing care to people who can no longer live independently due to either health conditions, disabilities, or advanced age. Now, according to the report, the ministry was supposed to begin inspecting special care homes in December 2021 with a plan to reach each home in the province within 3 years. It's now July 2025 when the auditor took a look at this. So 4 years later, 30 of the 161 spots across Saskatchewan have yet to be inspected. So major concerns flagged by the auditor this week.
And Murray, what stands out to you there?
Well, who knew the city of Regina and the provincial government got played on the Costco land deal for the new Costco location? It just thank you, provincial auditor, for pointing that out.
That was in there as well,
yes,
right?
Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. It's a huge issue in this particular city that we're paying more for this land than we perhaps should be, simply because one government got played off against the other, and the provincial auditor, my highlight, is saying, hey, maybe don't have governments play off against each other. Maybe work a little bit more cooperative. Thank you.
One taxpayer, yeah.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that got the attention of people this week was American political commentator Glenn Beck offering to help a Saskatchewan woman. Alex, what's the background here?
Well, the background here is that Jolene Van Alstyne has a rare disease. She wasn't able to get treatment here in Saskatchewan. She was essentially applying for MAID. So we learned, despite her saying that she had been approved for MAID, she's only been approved through one doctor. You need two doctor sign-offs. Commentator Glenn Beck picked up on this, tweeted the story out and has essentially said, I'll lend a hand. This is everything that's wrong with public-facing healthcare. He obviously has always had a long trail of comments where he has criticized, public healthcare. So there is that has been kind of making news this week.
And Murray, it's not all every day that we have someone with a profile of Glenn Beck getting involved in Saskatchewan healthcare politics. Do you think this makes any kind of impact?
Yeah. So, but your sympathies go out with the victim here, who's obviously has a rare condition, a rare disease that sometimes doesn't get covered in our public system. simply because it is a public system, often because we are a small country and the U.S. invests billions and billions more in public in healthcare to have innovative ideas and the best available resources in the world, if you can afford them. And that's the question in play. Nothing says that free public health care isn't working in Canada, like an American loudmouth basically offering to provide free health care to someone. He's underscoring why our system actually does work, because on her own, Ms. Van Alstyne could not afford to go to the U.S. for this treatment. Otherwise, she would. And this is the problem with the American system. This is going to happen in the Canadian system, not to be unsympathetic to the situation in hand, but this is going to happen in the Canadian system simply because of factors that we're plagued with, being a smaller country and the system we have. You have millions upon millions of Americans that can't access the same procedure anyway because their insurance wouldn't cover it. They couldn't simply afford it. It's absolute BS on the top of Glenn Beck, but it's serving his agenda. Problematic for Scott Moe and his government, because they're not providing the services. And as conservative governments, they're quite not married to the notions of Medicare as the NDP, and an NDP opposition is going to take advantage of this situation. But really, in many ways, I think it actually underscores that our system kind of probably does work, even though it doesn't work in the specific situation for this one individual, which is a tragedy.
Murray, Alex, thanks so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.